thank you for joining me to practice. We're going to do a short sequence to look at finding space in the torso and space around the shoulders and the hips too, to move into some twists. And hopefully in finding that space we might be able to release a bit of tension along the way as well. So we're going to start lying down. So bring the soles of the feet to the mat, knees up towards the ceiling, laying the spine down onto the mat. Take the arms wide and just have them resting somewhere that feels comfortable. And we'll take a moment here just to drop down into the body, to pull our awareness out of our mind, our thoughts, our headspace, and into the experience of being in our body in this moment. So noticing the soles of the feet on the mat. Lifting the toes and then laying them back down on the mat, perhaps noticing the space underneath the toes. Noticing the hips and the pelvis, and particularly the back of the pelvis, and noticing that sense of the weight dropping down through the back of the pelvis into the mat, and allowing that to be heavy and allowing ourselves to feel held by the earth. Same with the shoulders, finding a way of opening slightly, really subtly, maybe no movement, just a feeling of opening slightly across the front of the chest. And allowing the back of the shoulders, the upper back, to really sink down into the mat. And then we'll turn our attention towards the breath. Breathing in, noticing the back of the rib cage expand against the mat. And breathing out. Inhale. Exhale, really noticing how the rib cage moves against the mat. A few more breaths. We'll start to turn that into breath and movement. So breathing in. As you exhale, reach the arms to the top of the mat above the head. Drop the knees over towards the left. Inhale, come back to the center. Knees to the ceiling, arms come back down by the sides. Exhale, take the knees to the right. Arms come up over the head. And just move freely between those two. Breathing in to come back to the midline. Exhaling to move over towards the left. Reach the arms up towards, up above the head. Inhaling, come back to the midline. Exhaling over towards the right. And just find easeful movement here. Find a way of flowing from one side and over to the other, using the breath. And last one, over to the right. Coming back to the center. Hugging the right knee in. Giving it a bit of a squeeze in towards the body and the left knee. And taking a little bit of a rock. Rolling over onto one side or the other to come all the way up to find Sukhasana, easy pose, or a different position, maybe on the knees. We're not going to be here for very long. Reaching the arms up towards the ceiling and just drop the chin ever so slightly so that you can find some length in the back of the neck. Reaching out through the fingertips, breathe in. As you exhale, that same sense of allowing the weight to drop down through the sit bones, feeling really grounded through our seat. Inhaling. Exhale, bring the hands behind the head, interlace the fingers, keep the elbows wide. Breathe in. Length through the spine, and as you exhale, twist over to the left. Take the gaze over to the left too. Inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, twist over to the right. Keep the elbows wide. Inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, over to the left, noticing now where you meet restriction. Inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, over to the right. Is that restriction maybe in the shoulders, the upper arms, coming back to the center, over to the left, or maybe it's a restriction around the upper back. Breathing in, coming to the center. A couple more each side. Where you meet that restriction, see what you can do differently. Can you do anything differently to make this movement more easeful, to make it feel kinder? One more each side. Coming back to the center. And reaching the arms up towards the ceiling again, softening the tops of the shoulders. Just notice if you've allowed any tension to creep into the body there. And then bringing the hands back down to the mat, rolling over onto hands and knees into our tabletop pose. Moving into our cat-cows, breathing in, lift the chest, lift the gaze, tip the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Exhale, rounding into the back, pressing out between the shoulder blades. Inhaling, lift the heart, lift the gaze, tip the tailbone up. Exhaling, pushing the mat away to round into the back, tuck the tailbone, drop the head. And let's take a few more and practice that same observation of noticing where we meet restriction. Is it in the lower back or maybe around the shoulders? And if we meet restriction, is there something we can do subtly to work with the body in a kinder way? And then on your next exhale, starting to tuck the toes and lift the hips up towards the ceiling to come into our first downward facing dog. Let's make it a nice easy dog, nice and kind, soft knees, really focusing on creating length in the sides of the body more than anything else. And then while we're there, we might send a stretch more deeply into one leg than the other. And then change that, bending into one knee, sending the stretch more deeply into the opposite leg. And then settling in and finding stillness for a few breaths. Next inhale, gaze to the top of the mat, walk the feet up towards the hands. As you breathe out, come into an easy forward fold, soft knees, resting the rib cage against the thighs. You can let the arms hang if you want to. And then coming all the way up to stand, rolling through soft knees. Reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, take the gaze up towards the thumbs and then bringing the hands to your heart center. Moving through a half sun salutation, breathing in, reaching the arms up, take the gaze up. Exhaling, hinge at the hips, fold forwards. Hands come down to the mat. Breathe in, lift the chest, lift the gaze, really think about length in the spine. And then exhale, fold forwards again, ribs towards thighs. And then inhale, come all the way back up to stand, reach the arms out, reach the arms up. Take the gaze up towards the thumbs and then bring the hands back down to your heart. Inhaling, reaching up, we'll build on that. Look up. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold forwards. Hands to the mat. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the gaze. Exhale, hands to the mat, step the left foot out to the back of the mat. Lift the torso away from that front thigh, so we're really bringing some energy and heat. And then bring the hands back down to the mat, step back to your downward facing dog. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathing here. On your next inhale, stepping the left foot between the hands, finding that low lunge position, coming up onto the fingertips, lifting the torso away from that front thigh. And then stepping the right foot forwards, coming into that forward fold again. And breathing in, coming all the way up to stand. Reach the arms up. Look to your thumbs. Exhale, bring the hands to your heart center. Right side. Breathe in, reach the arms up. Exhale, hinge at the hips, fold forwards. Hands to the mat. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the gaze. Thinking about finding length in the spine. Exhale, fold forwards. Stepping the right foot to the back of the mat, lifting the torso away from the front thigh, coming up onto the fingertips. And then stepping back to your downward facing dog. Breathing in. Breathing out. And then staying with that breath here. On your inhale, gaze to the top of the mat, step the right foot between the hands, low lunge, and then we're bringing the left foot forwards, coming into that forward fold again. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, reaching the arms all the way up, take the gaze up towards the thumbs, exhale, bring the hands to your heart center. Just take a moment, press the thumb knuckles against the sternum, close the eyes. Notice yourself as you are. And we use that knowledge of ourselves as we move into our practice. Bring the hands to the hips, take the feet hip distance apart. So if you're still up in your head, use that observation to help bring you back down into your body. Bring the hands to the hips and lift the breastbone towards the ceiling. Take the gaze up to exhale, hinge at the hips and fold all the way forwards. The knees can be soft and we're bringing the hands down to the mat. And then breathe in, lift the torso and bring the left hand to the centre of the mat, so slightly forwards of the feet, underneath the face. And then we're bending into the left knee and starting to spin open towards the right, reaching the right arm up towards the ceiling. Find that opposition between grounding down into the left hand, through the left hand, and reaching up through the right fingertips. And notice the spiral of the torso in the middle. And the same as at the beginning. See if you can notice where you meet restriction. And then work with your body to see what adjustments you might make to work with your body in a more kind way. And bring the hands down to the mat, stepping the left foot back, low lunge, and then we're going to drop that left heel and open all the way out to a warrior two. Sinking down into the right knee, breathing in, breathing out. I'm going to flip the front palm up towards the ceiling, reaching all the way up and over into a reverse warrior. So for today's practice, this is definitely about a side bend rather than a back bend or a twist. This is a side bend, opening out through the right side of the body, but thinking about not crunching in the left side. We're thinking about finding a lift through the lower side of the ribs too. Yeah, good. And then coming back to warrior two. Bringing the right elbow down to the right knee, the left arm up towards the ceiling. And let's just try and find that same balance of stretching out in the left side, but without crushing into the right side. And then if that feels easeful for you, you can start to reach the left arm over towards the front diagonal. But don't let that turn into something that feels cramped in and restricted. Keep that sense of lifting up into the right armpit, keeping space in the right side of the body too. And then coming all the way back up to your warrior two, your good warrior two. And then straightening into the right knee, turn the right toes in, and then we'll come into our wide leg forward fold. As you exhale, bring the hands all the way down to the mat. The knees can be soft. Breathing in and breathing out. On your next inhale, lift the torso slightly, bring the right hand underneath the face. So again, in the center of the 2 feet, slightly forwards of the legs. And then we're starting to peel the left arm up towards the ceiling this time. So this time, no extra bend in the opposite knee. So both knees might be bent, that's fine. Or both knees might be straight, that's fine. But we don't want any asymmetry in the legs. We want the legs to feel nice and balanced and the work to be happening through the torso. And then bringing the hands all the way down to the mat, walking them round to the top of the mat, rearranging into our lunge position, reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling, lift the torso, lift up and out of the waist. And then bring the hands to the heart center. And we'll sneak in a little balance here. So as we transfer up to a standing position, we're going to send the weight down through the right foot and lift the left knee up in front for a little mini standing balance. And then bring both feet back down. Second side, bring the hands to the hips, feet hip distance apart. Breathing in, lift the breastbone up towards the ceiling. Exhale, hinge at the hips and fold all the way forwards. Bring the hands to the mat. Inhaling, lifting the torso slightly, bringing the right hand into the centre of the mat, slightly forwards of the feet. Bending into the right knee, peeling the left arm up towards the ceiling, finding that same opposition, grounding down through the right, lifting up through the left, finding that spiral through the torso in the middle. Breathing here. Exhaling, bringing both hands back down to the mat. This time we're stepping the right foot back, into that low lunge, dropping the right heel, and opening the arms out for your warrior two. Breath across the back of the body here, so we're not popping the ribs. And then breathing in, flipping the front palm, the left palm, and then reaching up and over into our reverse warrior. A nice side bend without crushing down into the right side of the body. Breathing here, keep your breathing. And then opening out to your warrior two. Bringing the left arm to the left knee, the right arm up towards the ceiling. Same idea. Working to ground down through the legs and lift up through the torso so we don't crush down in this lower half of the ribs, the left side of the ribs. And then we're reaching the right arm all the way up and over for our extended side angle. to your warrior two. Straightening into the left leg, turning the left toes in. So we come into our wide leg forward fold again. As you exhale, fold all the way forwards, bring the hands down to the mat. The knees can be soft, remember, but bring the hands down. Inhaling, lift the torso slightly. So this time we have the left hand into the centre, and it's the right arm that peels up towards the ceiling. So we're keeping the legs nice and balanced. And let's bring ourselves back to reminding ourselves to notice where the restriction happens. Let's just play around with what we might do to make that feel more easeful in our bodies in this moment. Bringing the hands back down to the mat, walking them round to the front foot, coming into your low lunge, reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, lifting up and out of the waist. Bring the hands to the heart centre. Let's just test this little mini standing balance again. So shifting the weight into the left foot, drawing the right knee up in front, and releasing both feet back down to the mat. Yeah, good. Okie dokie. Coming back to the top of the mat, reaching the arms up. Look to your thumbs, exhale, hinge at the hips and fold all the way forwards. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the gaze. Exhale, plant the hands down to the mat, step straight back into your downward facing dog. Nice and simple. And breathing in, lifting the right leg out behind you. Keeping the hips square. And noticing the length that you can create between the right heel, along the right leg, along the right side of the body and into the right hand. And then we're stepping that right foot between the hands, dropping the left knee, untucking the toes so you can bring the tops of the foot down to the mat. Come back to kneeling, bring the hands to your heart centre. So we're working into a bit of a deeper twist. We're going to bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee, remembering this idea of lifting the torso away from the front thigh. So we're not collapsing down. And then if you've got more than that, you might start to bring the left hand down to the mat, again, remembering to keep space. And then reaching the right arm up towards the ceiling. If there's more than that, we can tuck the back toe and start to lift that back knee. And wherever we get to, let's keep the breath nice and clear, and not forced. And keep this idea of creating space. So we have a sense of spiraling outwards and opening out into this twist. A couple more breaths. On your exhale, start to bring the hands down to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Hands coming onto the left side, lift the left leg out behind you. So we've got this same idea of really reaching out through the left heel, along the left leg, along the left side of the body. Creating length, or the idea of length. And then we step that left foot between the hands, drop the right knee, untuck the toes, so we bring the tops of the right foot to the mat, and lift up, bring the hands to your heart centre. Outside of the right elbow to the outside of the left knee, and we'll build the pose up again. So remembering we're creating that sense of lift through the torso, so we're not collapsing down. And if you've got more than that, maybe we bring the right hand down to the mat and we'll reach the left arm up towards the ceiling, noticing if we've got restriction, what might we do? How might we work differently to make this work? And if there's more, we tuck the back toe, lift the knee. And whichever version of the pose we're in, we breathe. As you exhale, bringing both hands down. Stepping back, downward facing dog. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in, looking to the top of the mat. Softening the knees and walking or hopping the feet up towards the hands. We'll cross the ankles and start to lower the hips to come down to a seat. Soles of the feet to the mat, knees up towards the ceiling. Lay the spine back down on the mat where we started. Arms just down by the sides. And we'll start to wind things down. And just before we do, we'll bring the soles of the feet a little bit closer so you can brush the backs of your heels. We'll come into our bridge pose just to use all that space we've created in the body to open up into a simple back bend. So pressing into the soles of the feet, really using the legs to lift the hips. So pressing down through the feet, lift the hips, roll the spine off the mat, walk the shoulders in underneath you. And keep that same idea in mind that the front of the body is opening, but we don't want that to be because the back of the body is compressed. We want to find some space in the back of the body. So we might do that by lifting the heart towards the top of the mat. And then starting to walk the shoulders out from underneath you, rolling the spine back down to the mat. Taking the arms wide. Finding the feet and the legs in a more relaxed position, and we'll wind out of our practice the same way that we wound ourselves into our practice, by linking breath and movement, breathing in. As you exhale, drop the knees over towards the left and reach the arms over the head. Breathing in, coming back to the centre. Breathing out, knees over to the right, arms over the head. Breathing in, coming back to the centre, arms by the sides. Over to the left. Coming back to the centre. And over to the right. And so start to slow that down. Take as many full versions or half versions of that as you need to allow yourself to just find stillness. And you might just keep the knees up towards the ceiling and drop the knees in towards each other. Or you might find yourself in the more traditional Shavasana pose, extending the legs, having the feet out towards the sides of the mat. Wherever you are, just make your way, wind your way down to stillness. Take a breath in and exhale. And just let yourself be. Let yourself rest. bring yourself back. You bring a little bit of movement to the fingers and the toes. Starting to take a more deliberate breath to guide you back into movement. Bring the knees in towards you. Hugging the knees in towards the chest. Take a little hug. And then reaching the feet away from you, the arms over the head. Stretch everything out. And then when you're ready, rolling over onto one side or the other. And coming all the way up to find a seat that works for you. Sukhasana pose, or kneeling, or grab a cushion or a blanket to sit on. Sit nice and tall, bring the hands to the heart centre. Lower the gaze or keep the eyes closed. We'll take a moment to just find some gratitude. It might be something big, something significant in our lives, or it might be something small and simple. Maybe the bird song that you can hear. Or the time and the technology that means we can share our practice together, even in these times when we're all locked down. Really land on that feeling of gratitude. Land on an idea that fills your heart. And take a deep inhale. And an exhale. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me.